What's up, family? Thank you for tuning in to the Dream Nation podcast. My name is Casanova. I'll be your host, and I'm excited to be bringing to you entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and trailblazers from around the world. Stay locked in with us because we're about to go on a journey that will change your life. What's up, Dream Builder? We are back again with another real estate episode, and I'm sure this one right here will have an impact on your life, not only in real estate, but your mindset, and letting you know that you can overcome anything. So without further ado, please help me in welcoming my brother, my sister, Mr. Jay and Samera Harvey to the show. You want to go ahead and say what's up to Dream Nation?
What's going on, Dream Nation? We appreciate you having us. We're excited to bring some value to the table today.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be fun. So the way that I always love to compare, or the way that I always love to make sure we give the proper introductions is what I do is I compare us, especially as real estate entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs in general, to superheroes. Why? Is because we're constantly flying around the world. We're putting on a cape and we're trying to solve some of the biggest problems in the world. And so what we know, and normally it's only one guess, so I'm gonna tweak this a little bit, but what I always say is what we know is behind every Superman, there's a Clark Kent. But also I want to say behind every Wonder Woman, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it was Princess Diana, is I think the real name behind Wonder Woman. So what I want to ask you two is behind the superheroes who we know as Jay and Samera, who is that Clark Kent and that Princess Diana?
Well, that's a deep question. I'm assuming you're saying who are we behind the facade? And so
absolutely.
We are. That's a really deep question.
Yeah,
I'm like, where to even begin with that?
Go ahead and take it away,
Yeah.
man. I will say, we are people that believe in ourselves, believe in our dream. We are dreamers at the core. We're very, very adventurous, but at the core of us, we are givers. We read a book called Goal Givers, and after reading it, we said, hey, we're gonna dedicate our lives to connecting people to people, or connecting people to information. So when you guys are seeing us and you're checking out our YouTube channel, this is the genuine thing right here. We are not just acting. We genuinely care about bringing value because we know what value has done for our lives in terms of financial education. And we see what our students are doing, and we're making a huge impact in the world. So at the core, that's who we are.
Yeah. I love it. And so there's a couple of things I want to break down. But before we get into it, of these questions that I'm going to ask, did you guys you mentioned financial literacy. Did you come from the world of financial literacy? Did you come from the world of entrepreneurship or real estate? What did that background look like for you all when you decided that you were going to get into real estate?
Yeah, I mean, we technically did come from financial backgrounds. I mean, I'm a CPA, a certified public accountant. Jay has his master's degree in finance. So we technically do have a finance background, but what they teach you in school has nothing to do with what the real world looks like, what real estate looks like. So a lot of the foundation that we have was not applicable to our journey.
And to be honest, even before that, I'm talking our mindset, our upbringing, get raised with that financial education that we have now. To be completely transparent with you, my mom, I remember this really deep conversation. We were talking about things that I was going through. I had certain debts at the time, and my car was broken down. I needed a car. My mom taught me this at 17. Hey, just go out, buy a car, keep it for a little bit, and then go out and file a bankruptcy. And that's literally where I come from, to be honest, when you're talking about financial education. Yeah. So no, we do not come from this, man.
Yeah, same here. Family grew up collecting welfare, and that was the game. Don't make too much money so you can make sure you can collect your checks. So definitely not from entrepreneur backgrounds whatsoever. Hustler backgrounds, I will say that for sure, but not entrepreneurship.
Yeah, thankfully, I saw my grandfather growing up. He owned a funeral home in Gary, Indiana. Very, very thriving business, and I was able to just learn from him, learn how to run a business, how to interact with people, how to bring value to the marketplace, and really the work ethic and the discipline. And growing up, I just saw a sense of freedom that my parents didn't have, because they were working so hard, trying to raise us, trying to run a job. He had this thriving business, and he was actually helping people in the community. Everybody knew his name because of the value he was bringing to the table. So I said, you know what, I want to do that. I don't want to do what you do for a living, but I want to be an entrepreneur. So.
Man, I love it. And I remember when you said that about what your mom told you. I remember I got my first credit card. It was out of a Walmart kiosk. I was just finishing up my first year of college at University of Iowa. I got my first credit card, and they give you like $350. And at this time, Xbox had just come out. So I come home, I get the little voucher that says I got $350. I know nothing about credit cards. And I remember my parents are just like, yo, you could buy some food this month. Like, it was not, hey, you got this $350. You better be prepared to pay this money back, because they gonna come in 30 days, max 45. So the reason why I say that is for anybody that's listening, that's watching right now, take heed. Maybe you're somebody that you're saying, hey, I don't necessarily have the financial literacy, but take heed to that right there, because there will be somebody that will come after you that will need to have that hand up, not a hand out, but just that little bit of information of like, don't go get a bankruptcy. Don't go get a buyer, pay your car, and then try to do bank. That just never works out in the end. So no, I appreciate that. And then the other part that I wanted to talk about is you said, you have always been adventurous. You've always been a dreamer. And I love that, because I read something, and maybe you can explain it a little bit more, but it said when you first got started in real estate, you guys lost over $90,000. Right? And it said on deals. So did you lose this over the course of multiple deals, or break that down?
Absolutely, man. So like Samera said, with our financial backgrounds, after the schooling we went through, we actually went into the corporate world, and we were like, hey, this isn't for us. We need to do something. We tried a bunch of different things, but we thought real estate was better suited for us to balance each other's strengths and weaknesses. So we went out there. We first invested into a burnout home. So we took $60,000 of our own saved up money. We don't come from like student loans and things like that. So we took pride in having that much money saved. So we walk into this house. It's in South Phoenix. Man, this house has no roof whatsoever, no windows, no doors. However, we looked at ourselves and we said, hey, we got to take some action. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it big. We weren't as educated as we are now, but we were all about taking risks. So we took a risk on that home, and I don't want to say we lost money in the totality of things. It's just this deal, it took a lot longer than expected. It took us 15 months to actually get a profit on this deal. So we're out $60,000 that full 15 months. We also, we're very big on going to meetings, meeting people, networking. We go to a RIA meeting, we meet a guy, and in Phoenix, Arizona, you go into the RIAs, there's not a lot of people that look like us in the room. So the first person that we saw that actually stood out, that was actually talking about deals, we resonated to. We spent time with this guy. We actually looked at this guy as like a father figure. So he presented an opportunity to us. It was another fix and flip home. It was in a decent area of Scottsdale, Arizona. We're like, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's got the experience. If we're gonna lock in with somebody, we're gonna lock in with him. We lock into this deal, but we did not know that it was being foreclosed on. We put $30,000 into this deal, and this guy, he actually got away with stealing over $250,000, not just from us, but from other people. So at that point, man, yeah, it was disastrous as far as the mindset is concerned.
Right off the bat, first two deals were like a struggle, like pulling a boulder up a hill. It was tough, but we couldn't stop there, because we knew, if we tried to, replace this money with our 9-to-5s that we're in, it's gonna take so long. It's gonna take 20 plus years just to pay off that debt. So we knew we couldn't stop there.
Man, that's a critical piece right there. I think there's 2 points. First, I want to highlight on what you just said. Like, even if you stop there, what's going to be your result of how you get that money back? And for a lot of people, they're trying to save their way to become wealthy. And whether that means money or just having the freedom and the time, which we really know, having the freedom to have choices, that's your real wealth. But either way, you got to figure out, okay, if I go back to this 9 to 5 job, how long is it going to take me to even get 30,000? Forget about the 60, this last 30. How long is that going to take me to save up? And do I really, there's sacrifices no matter what, but do I really got to sacrifice and live a life that now I'm hating because I'm not bringing in that income? Because if you go try to save $30,000 in 1 year, you better have a really good salary, which for the average person, they don't. What are they making? 50 to 60,000, right? So you got to save half your salary, and then it just becomes too much. So I love that you took that approach of like, we got to invest to get this money back, you know, and we're going to do it smart. And I want to ask you, what was the driving factor for you all not to quit? Was it a book? Was it your environment? Was it, hey, we got these other deals lined up, but now we know what we know. These deals shouldn't be like that. What was it that allowed you to keep going?
Go ahead.
For me, man, it was, I just knew this wasn't the grand vision for my life. You know, we're really big on personal development. We're really big on praying and bringing God into our life. And there was just something in me that just knew like, this wasn't what God had in store for me. This is just part of the journey. So I took the mindset of like, hey, you know, this looks bad on the outside, but I'm going to look at it as, hey, I learned my way into this. I'm going to learn my way out.
Yeah. And I think there was, you know, a couple other factors. You know, we were so uncomfortable in our current position, in our jobs, the way we were living, the lifestyle that we were living. It's just like, we can't keep living like this. Like there's got to be more. And I remember walking into my 9 to 5 every day, like sitting in my cubicle, like, got to be more to life. There's got to be more to life. So I think we were really uncomfortable, and we surrounded ourselves with the right people. You know, we had some people in our corner that were like, hey, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. You got to keep pushing, you got to keep pushing. And so that really, really helped us to say, you know, hey, it's a mistake, we're going to learn from it, and we're going to push forward.
And think about it, man. I'm really big into sports. I played basketball, football growing up. If I went into a basketball game and I went 0 for 20 during that game, that cannot be my last game. I gotta bet on myself. So it was just one of those things, man. I just knew that the life we were living at that time and what we were going through just wasn't the highest vision I had for us.
Man, I love that mindset. I was just talking to my wife, and we have a daycare center, and I was just talking to her, and last week she had somebody that put in there 2 weeks, and it just felt like she was having a little bit, like a couple L's in a row, right? Which we all go through it. But the one thing that I told her, I was like, you got to look at it. This journey is like a game 7 series, like 7-game series. And I'm huge into basketball as well, and so I'm sure you know Jamal Murray or anybody who's been watching these playoffs, right? Even when you're down 3-1, you're like, one game, even 3 games does not define us, right? Like at the end of the day, it's always another chance. And in the beginning, people will ask you why you're doing it, but in the end, you guys are proven examples. They'll ask you how you did it, right? So just like you said, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Now let's get into, you guys have now carved a niche or niche, however you want to say it, in one of the most now exciting avenues or ventures inside of real estate, and that is mobile home investing. So you started out and you did burnout homes, which is interesting because if I get my first, I feel like I would probably want to be like, yo, I just want to do a flip. Like burnout homes, there's a lot to go with that. But how did you guys get into mobile home investing for you guys to become pioneers in that?
Well, like Samera said, you know, we like to surround ourselves around great people. So these great people, they saw we were, you know, in a funk, and, you know, they knew our mindset was to continue to learn. So we actually got invited out to a meeting at another RIA. There was an older gentleman there talking about mobile home investing. He's like, hey, for all you guys that are new and you're starting with single family home, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not looking at the opportunity with mobile home investing. So he was making anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000 a month. It wasn't going hard at all. He was maybe only putting in about 15 to 20 hours per week. It's just part-time because he's retired. But the thing I really liked about it is he wasn't using any of his own money. And if he was, it was no more than about $3,000 to $5,000 per month. So I got all this information. You know, I'm all excited. I run home like, yo, Samera, this is the next move for us. This is when we get out of and then I told her mobile home. She like, hell no.
Right?
Trailer trash. 8 miles? Nah, we're not doing
Hell nah.
Right.
I mean, we had already had such a rocky journey in real estate. Then he comes home talking about trailer homes. I'm like, come on, man. Like that.
Right. Like I'm with you, but come on, you gotta like, can't we just get a nice turnkey property?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. But, we started doing a lot of research, looking at the numbers. I'm a numbers person, I'm a CPA. So I'm like, okay, looking at the ROI, looking at, how many mobile home communities, how many mobile homes are just around us that we've always drove past and never even noticed. And so once we started really adding the numbers up and really seeing the opportunity, it was a no-brainer for us.
So break that down, because the first thing I'm sure somebody listening or watching is thinking is, you said you could get started investing with $3,000 to $5,000 at max, right? Some people don't have that 20%, which could be $20,000 to $40,000 to get started. So how are you able to leverage so heavily or use none of your own money in mobile homes?
Well, the great thing about the real estate education we had is that, it translates really well in terms of mobile home investing. So when you're talking about wholesaling deals, even brokering deals, you're taking those same strategies and you're putting it into the mobile home investing side. And when we're talking about $3,000 to $5,000, we're talking in context of, the state of Arizona, specifically Phoenix, Arizona, where some of these individuals are distressed, very financially distressed. Something has been going on where they really just need to get up out of the lot rent. They'll almost give you the home for free. So we're finding homes that are worth $20,000, and we're picking these homes up for somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000, and then flipping them very, very fast, not putting very much money into these homes at all. These are not HGTV projects, not single family rehabs. It's just like you're in and you're out because of the affordable housing crisis going on in America right now. It's at an all-time high.
And just to add on that, we do have a lot of other properties where people, they buy land and it has a mobile home on there and they don't want the mobile home, that they have a bigger vision for that land. So they're just like, get it off my land. And so the beautiful things about manufactured homes is you can move them anywhere. And if you don't really understand the value of them, you don't really understand, the demand that people have for these homes, because like Jay said, so many people need affordable housing in America. It's crazy. When we have these properties, we're getting hundreds and hundreds of hits because people really need them.
And when she says you move in the home, we're not even talking about us. We're talking about our buyers going in, buying the home, managing the move, getting the move set up, funding the move. All we're doing is bringing the opportunity of this affordable home to the table.
Got it. So I guess my next question is, how often are you only specifically focusing on mobile homes, or how often are you trying to buy mobile parks that encompass multiple mobile homes?
Right now, because of the abundance of opportunities that we've seen, not just in Arizona, but Texas, as well as Southern California, we've really just been focused in on just going deeper into mobile home investing. Like, hey, how can we scale this? How can we even take our Trailer Cash Academy knowledge and provide it to more people? So right now, it's really just been for us, the education side, investing into more states, more communities that need our help. And then, in the future, we plan on looking into mobile home park investing, just not at this time.
Yeah, no, definitely understandable. So for somebody that's looking right now and they say, hey, I want to get my first deal, but before I even go starting to do the research on this, what are the numbers, just on general numbers? Is there, in terms of cash flow, is there more cash flow than a regular single family home where you maybe could be cash flowing $400 to $500? Are you talking maybe $1,000 to $1,200? Obviously, it's always dependent on location. But what does that look like? Why should someone really be looking into mobile homes in terms of cash flow?
We're so happy you said that. I'm going to let you take it away, because I know you love this question, but I just want the listeners to just think about this. When you're talking $400 to $500 cash flow, that sounds great, but think about what you have to do in order to make that $400 to $500 happen in terms of single family home, especially if you don't come from a lot of money, you don't have a bunch of time, maybe you've got some issues with your credit. Think about where you're going to get that money from. How are you going to utilize other people's money with the single family home? That's going to take a bunch more time and other resources in order to get that one $400 to $500 property going. But
yeah. So when we cash flow mobile homes, we are not landlords, we don't rent them. we use seller financing. So we act as the bank. And so the beautiful thing about mobile home investing and what we do with this strategy is majority of our standard is we want to be able to make our whole investment back within 6 months or less. And we typically cash flow anywhere between $250 to $500 per unit. So we're able to cash flow a significant amount, almost as much as a single family home, with a portion of the investment, and we're able to get all of our money back out of the property within 6 months or less. So let's just say, like on a few of our first deals, we got a property for $2,000. We don't put a lot of money into the repairs, maybe $500 to $1,000, just to clean it up, make sure that it's in structurally good condition. And then we resell it. We will most likely, even if we're in for $3,000, we'll get $2,500 down on the deposit, and then it'll only take us maybe 2 to 4 months to recoup our investment, and we're still able to cash flow for the next 5 to 7 years on this property. So there's really, really good numbers. That was our go-to strategy when we were trying to get out of our 9 to 5. We're like, hey, how much is our bills? How much cash flow do we need? 10 properties. Okay, that's 10 properties, and we'll be able to at least supplement our income.
And we're not saying that you can't do that with no experience as far as the single family home side. All we're saying is think the resources, the time, the money, the energy, your faith, your desire. Think about all that going into that one home. And then think about what you can do with those same resources with the mobile home investing side. It's just night and day. You can get just more volume, just more homes completed than completing just one deal on that first cash flow single family home deal if you're new to investing.
Yeah. Now, for somebody that's saying, okay, well, I live in a more rural area, let's even just say urban area, right? I live in the city. I don't see a lot of mobile homes, right? Unless you're going to the hood or unless you're going somewhere else. But for me to try to, one, find these, and two, even be able to see them or manage them even for that 6-month period or 3-month period, should I be focusing on investing in the places like Arizona? Because if I live in Ohio, and maybe I don't have them, or if I live in Miami, how can I find these mobile homes because Arizona on the other side of the country, obviously.
Yeah, so surprisingly, there's an abundance of mobile home communities around the country. You may just not be aware of them.
Right.
They're not necessarily in the urban city areas like Chicago, New York City, Detroit, but when you go even into the suburbs, into the outskirts, you really see a lot more opportunities. We have students all across the country. We see a lot in the southern states, tons of mobile homes all the way up the East Coast and even in the Midwest. There's a ton of mobile homes. It's just being more aware of where they're at and just being open to traveling outside of the city into more of the suburbs and the little bit more rural areas is where they're mostly at.
Yeah, there's an abundance of opportunity out there. A lot of the clients that we are serving, they're blue collar workers. They're out in the field each and every day getting the job done. And when you think about that, it's like, hey, I actually want to be around those metro areas because that's where the people are that need the affordable housing the most.
And so if you find one, right, where do I go to try to find my buyer? Is it just like I'm gonna go to Craigslist? Is it I'm gonna actually go to the people that are in the mobile home park and say, hey, do you got any brothers, sisters, cousins that maybe want to live in the neighborhood as well? Where would someone go?
A great question. So you mentioned Craigslist. That's a free source, really easy to use. A lot of people are still using Craigslist to this day. There's another marketplace out there called MH Village. So MH Village is the largest online buying and selling marketplace for mobile homes. And you also mentioned in the community. So we always say this, network with park managers. Let them know who you are, what you're doing. Sometimes, they can help find you a buyer, or just networking with other people that live in the community. Sometimes they want their family member or friend to be a little bit closer next to them. So they'll go out, find you a buyer for them. So you got multiple opportunities. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, we don't use the MLS. This is not traditional real estate. It's actually personal property. So we don't use the MLS. However, any online listing sites, even sites like OfferUp, where people are buying and selling cars and toys and things, people are also selling mobile homes on those listing sites as well.
Wow. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of insight. And just like you said, I think most people are probably listening and watching. Now they're going to be driving. If somebody's listening to this right now and they drive past a mobile home, they're like, oh, okay, well, that one looks kind of run down. How do I know what, because you said most people maybe don't understand the value of them. How does one, can mobile homes appreciate just like a single family home? And then two, how do I even learn what the value of a manufactured home is?
Well, that's a great question. We'll break that up into the appreciation. That's one of the things that we get the most. Like, I don't invest in mobile homes because they depreciate. Yes, mobile homes are considered personal property. So, like vehicles, they do depreciate. But unlike most other, forms of investing, mobile homes will, depreciate to a certain extent where they will actually hold their value. And because there's not a lot of mobile home parks being built across the country, if you've got a decent home, let's just say a 1996 double wide home in really great condition, there's a lot of families out there that can't necessarily get approved for single family home or are choosing to live a more affordable lifestyle, but they know the demand for that home is so high because there's not a lot of supply. So you can actually get to a point, of depreciation where depreciation doesn't even matter anymore. You can still ask for a certain amount of this home, each and every year. It won't necessarily appreciate. I don't want to use that term. However, people will pay top dollar for that same home each and every year, as long as the home is in stable condition and it's safe.
Yeah, it's really about the utility of the home. When you put the mobile home on land, those properties do appreciate. But when you're just talking about any type of house, if the house didn't have land, it would also depreciate just like a mobile home would. But there's the value in the utility of it, and that's really where you have to run the numbers. And a lot of the homes that we focus on are not brand new homes. We focus on the used market. So there's still, as long as you're running your numbers right, we've never lost money on a deal.
Wow. Yeah, and that's big right now. I think for somebody right now to listen to that, myself included, that's a lot of credibility, because you were transparent in the beginning and say every deal was shit, right? And now all of a sudden you're like, yo, and we've never lost money in mobile homes. It's like, okay, so maybe this is more of a foolproof way. Now we'll say that, and we'll have a disclaimer, because all investing is risky. Right? It really is. It doesn't matter if you're investing in the Bitcoin, real estate, it doesn't matter. It's always risky. But there's ways that you can make it at least a little bit more surefire and mitigate or minimize your risk. And that's what it sounds like this does. And on top of that, it's a lot better to, like you said, only have to put in $3,000 to $5,000 to maybe $10,000, as opposed to having to put in $40,000 to $60,000 to $100,000 to try to renovate. And then that number, if there's a big, foundation issue, which you wouldn't have with a mobile home. What's the average repair cost on a mobile home?
We typically spend no more between $3,000 to $5,000 on a fix and flip. So that's completely going in. We're talking about the subflooring. There's something wrong with that. The electrical, the plumbing, the roofing, the AC. But typically what we try to tell our students that are brand new, hey, we want to get in, we want to get out as soon as possible. So we're talking no more than a deep clean, making sure that the big 5 major repair items are good to go. When you're just starting out, you can go well below that $3,000 to $5,000. That's just if we're going in fixing multiple items, but most of our students don't end up spending more than about $1,000, $1,500 on any type of repair.
Yeah, and again, this isn't HGTV. Yeah. We don't do a lot of cosmetic work. We're not putting granite countertops. We're not, sometimes we'll paint, sometimes we won't paint, but a lot of the actual buyers that move into these properties, they're handy. They'll do the work themselves. Actually, if you're giving them a slight discount on the property, they'd rather do the work themselves and make the home into what they want to. Yeah. So that's something that really appealed to us doing, our first fix and flip with the burnout. We were like, man, this is a lot of steps. There's a lot of work and you have to get the home to a certain standard. With these homes, there's no inspections, there's no appraisals. You just have to get it to where we want to sell a safe, affordable home that's structurally sound so they can come in and fix it the way they want to.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's a super dope strategy. And again, it's a way for you to mitigate a lot of your risk. Going back to, I think, the second question, and I want to tap into it because you talked about appraisals. The second question was, how do you know what this home will be worth? Like, how do you know the value of it? And so when you're going in the beginning, we often talk about ARV, right? Of just understanding what's the potential for this property. How do you figure that out?
Yeah, so it's very, very similar to real estate. We want to see what other homes are selling for in that park. We rate the communities between 1 to 5 stars. So depending on, you can have the same, it's a little different, as you can have a beautiful home in a 1-star community, but the value of it won't be as high as a home in the 5-star community. So one thing is the location of it. The other is obviously the year of the home matters, as far as, making sure that if it's a pre-HUD home, which is basically built before 1976, means it just wasn't built with the same standards as maybe a home that's a little bit newer. So we like to look at the year of the home, the location, and the size of the home matters a lot.
And then what you can do is you can use a couple of the tools out there that we mentioned, like MH Village, even Craigslist. If you've got a home, and go on those sites and figure out, what's actually on the market, what's selling. The great thing about MH Village, they'll actually say what's actually sold too. So that's a huge tool that we used when we first started. And then you can also pick up the phone or drive to these communities. Talk to park managers, describe the type of home you have or the type of home you're looking for, and just get data from them. They see a bunch of these homes being sold on a daily basis. They know who's coming in and out of these communities. So pick their brain. Some of them are non-investor friendly, but the ones that are investor friendly, man, they're open book for you.
Yeah, we don't have as much data as they have in real estate. I know in real estate, you just pull the numbers, pull the comps, and everything's right here. It's not the same. You really have to become a market expert. You really have to really learn what's in demand, where are the locations, what types of homes, sizes of homes, and it's kind of like you kind of have to feel it out as you go. But as you become an expert in your location, it gets easier and easier.
Got it. And so this isn't something that you're really going to want to go deep into one location, because if you're not from Arizona or somewhere like that, and you don't have the data that's worldwide, right, or at least countrywide, then you could be all over the place, always trying to learn a new market. Is that right?
True.
For sure. Yeah. A lot of our students, they are doing virtual deals with other students in the community in different parts of the country than where they actually reside. However, they all started off just taking advantage of the market they live in. We say, go deep, master your market first, understand the basics, like go through a whole transaction from beginning to end a few times and really start to get more familiar with your entire state. Don't be afraid to drive out of your actual community. And then from there, you can start to, if you find people that you resonate with, that you trust, that has the skill sets you're looking for as well, you can start to JV on those different deals in multiple states across the country.
I like it. I like it. Now, for you guys, what's the end goal? Let me ask, because if somebody says, okay, so, and normally the cycle in traditional investing in real estate is a lot of people, they'll start out either wholesaling or maybe fixing and flipping, and then they'll try to graduate to single family homes. Then if you keep going, then you're in multifamily homes and obviously commercial storage, things like that. In your world, what's the end game for you? Is it now we're still going to use this to get into multifamily, or is it mobile home park investing?
It's a really great question. So for us, what we say to all students is the same thing. Start off with wholesaling, raise as much revenue in your business as much as possible without utilizing your wallet, where you can just leverage your time and your knowledge. Get a handful of those deals completed, and then graduate up to the fix and flip and the buy and holds. At least when you need funds, you can at least utilize the money that you've been able to generate in your business, or you can use other people's money, other people in the community that you're in. After that, it's all about, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to scale across to do, more homes throughout your community? Or do you want to graduate on up to the single family home and the fix and flip game? For us, it's all about just expanding more, going deeper into mobile home investing in the states that we already work in, giving the opportunity of home ownership to more of the clients we serve, and then the opportunity for individuals to get their first deal closed with the students that we serve. But we always say it's all on you.
Yeah, and our next big vision is really expanding into land and developing land and putting mobile homes on there. We have other coaches and trainers on our team that are basically finding lots, putting mobile homes on those lots and selling them as a package deal. Amazing numbers, amazing potential, because there's an abundance of land and there's a lot of mobile homes that can be moved to them. they build these in factories. So there's no shortage of these homes. So definitely that's the next big vision, is acquiring land, developing the land, and putting mobile homes on those, and even possibly creating our own small parks.
Man, that's a dope vision there. And I loved when you talked about people who can't afford home ownership, because we often obviously tout home ownership and we want to tell people, but some people legit, they just, whether that means that they don't have the means or maybe they just don't have the mindset, that's a big jump for them. And so everybody, if you can meet somebody wherever they are, right, that's a big market to serve. So that's definitely somebody that's thinking, and it's probably less crowded. Right, we just had a gentleman who's out of Phoenix as well. His name is Mark Podolsky. Have you guys heard of him?
I've heard of Mark, yeah.
So he's called the Land Geek. So I'll bring this up because we just had him on the show last week, and he's done over 5,500 land deals. And he's out of the Phoenix Scottsdale area. Super cool cat. And 5,500 land deals, and he talked about how he started off in the corporate world of being a data broker or something like that, and then he wound up having a mentor that told him about land. And so it was interesting because you guys just talked about having the land and then putting the mobile park with that. And so there's so much opportunity. But I'll be honest, for me, I didn't know that brokering and wholesaling land was like that. But it's anytime you can get into something, because here's something that I learned, and it's funny because this is I just had my guy on, Josh Smith. Do you guys know who GSD Mode is? Joshua Smith. He's more on the traditional real estate side, but I just had him on the show, and he said something which was so powerful in the way that he said it. But he said, here's what I'll tell you: everything works, nothing doesn't work. Right? So it's just figuring out, but you got to go deeper into it. You can't just get in on the surface level. And a lot of times, if you can find something that's not very saturated, like mobile home investing, you're probably going to have a lot of success. And on top of that, it just feels like you'll get better and more quality mentorship, because everybody could tell you about fixing and flipping single family homes. But if you go to somebody that's still in the trenches and you're like, here's what I'm doing, your mentor then can also become like your brother or your sister. So I like that as well. So,
I agree with that, man. Just thinking about it, like when we started off, like a lot of people, you go to these RIAs, you go to these, real estate meetings, and it's tough to meet the right person because they're throwing all these different strategies at you, man. With real estate investing, that's a rabbit hole. There's a lot of different avenues you can go through. We're saying, hey, this is very specific, mobile home investing in parks. There's only 5 strategies that we use. We're going to keep it very specific for you, so you're not, walking away feeling like, oh man, I'm overwhelmed. What strategy should I do? Should I do this? Single family home, condos, apartments, commercials? Just keeping it very specific to parks.
And I feel like that's why a lot of people don't get started, is because there is so many different routes and everybody glamorizes their route, right? And it's tough. So I think the more niche that you can do, the less saturated that it is. It feels like the more specialized of a person that you're going to talk to and find mentorship in. And so just like you said, and I like that. I was actually going to, I'm going to say that, everybody uses KISS, right? Keep it super simple, but it could be even keep it specific and simple. Right? Keep it specific, because a lot of people want that specific. Otherwise, you leave out of there and you're like, you got that? It's like a husband and wife. It's like, you got that? I got it. You got it? Then they both sitting in the car on the way home like, we don't got it. Like, I don't know what route.
Yeah, it's that whole, the fire hose. There's so much information, and real estate is so broad, and it's like, you got to pick a lane. You can't trying to do this, a little that. It just really just gets you have to go deep. You
have to go deep. I love it. I got just a couple last questions for you all. This has been an amazing conversation. The first thing that I always love to ask is, looking at your journey these last 3 years, right? Is that how long you guys have been doing this now? 3 years, at least teaching other people, 3 years strong?
The teaching side has been a lot slower, about almost a year and a half.
Year and a half. So over these last 3 years, even going back when you guys decided that you were going to jump into real estate and you had the $30,000 and the $60,000 lessons, if you could change or implement one thing sooner to accelerate your journey to where you are now, what would that thing be?
This is going to be different.
Yeah, I would say delegation. I think especially in the beginning, we were doing everything on our own. We thought we could do it all ourselves. We were like, we're just going to scale it. We're going to use systems and we're just going to build this massive empire on our own. But as soon as we really started leveraging other people, partnering with other people, using their other resources, their time, their energy, their money, that's when things really started to explode from us. So really connecting with the right people. I think if we would have done that and delegated and just connected with the right people sooner that we can work with and partner with, that's really where we saw a ton of growth.
Yeah, for me, I think it starts with the mind. I would say, for me, I would start with having more awareness of where I actually am presently. Because when we started off, we wanted to do all these big deals and we were rushing things because we were just thinking always with that end game in mind, but that vision wasn't really clear because we hadn't put in the real work, the necessary skill sets that we needed to obtain in order to get to that other side of growth. And I genuinely feel like if we would have taken the time to be more present, looking at the things that we have versus what we don't have, and taking it a little bit slower, giving ourselves a little bit more grace, and drawing out a grand vision for our life versus just thinking, okay, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this, we got to do that, without really no route, really no game plan. I think more awareness and presence would have helped a ton.
Yeah, both of those are so critical. And I think just off of those two things, anybody can change their lifestyle, right? First, sitting down, coming up with a plan. It doesn't matter where you are, right? Because you can always get to the next level. But if you don't know where you're trying to get to, you're really going to be lost. And I've experienced that. It's so funny because we all got these big visions, but you just want to run so fast because I think, and I can only speak for myself, but the longer that you sit there thinking, you feel like you're not taking action. So you feel like then it'll just go by the wayside. So you just get to running in really fast, but it's got to be a healthy balance or a harmony between the two, because otherwise you'll get exhausted and you'll burn out really quickly or lose a lot of money since this is investing.
Exactly.
Yes.
So on the next and the final question that I have, well, I get two. One, we haven't talked about books or podcasts or anything of where you specifically have gotten a lot of your mentorship in mindset and in the real estate game. Do you all have something that is your go-to or which helped you when you were first starting out?
So many books. I'm like, where to begin? I would definitely say E-Myth, especially the real estate investor edition, was huge for us. It stopped us from thinking like just the solopreneur, we're just building a business here, to how can we really leverage other people? How can we really build a team? What does a business really look like? I think that book was critical for us to just really start thinking like a CEO instead of just a solopreneur.
And then I've got two books for you. Master Your Time, Master Your Life. I don't have the author's name on me. However, when you talk about being in that hustler mindset, feeling like you have to do everything like you were mentioning, time becomes not a priority. Money becomes a priority, but the real wealth is the time. And when we started to read that book and finish it, we started asking ourselves each day, like, man, how can I take each day, each 24 hours that I have and do more of what I love to do? You do that by prioritizing what's important. So that book is really huge to get your days organized, keeping the main thing the main thing. And the second book was High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. He was able to, interview a ton of high achievers out there in all these different industries, throughout the world. And I was able to feel like I was able to pick so many people's brains that I didn't ever have a chance of, even up to this point, to actually interview them one-on-one, but I felt like I did. And I was able to understand, what a winning routine looks like, daily routine from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. It's not just, I got to get up and go to work. I got to go to work. I got to grind. No, it's like, what am I doing mentally? What am I doing spiritually? How are my connections going on? How are my relationships? And then, with business, how am I leveraging not just my time, but other people's time? So I would say that one, for anybody starting off, those three books are all good to go.
Yeah, two of the three I've already read, and it's funny is because Michael Gerber and Brendon Burchard are on the books to come on the show. So that's super dope. But the other one, Master Your Time, Master Your Life, I've heard it mentioned before, and I've become an avid reader, but I've never read that book, so I definitely got to look into it. But yeah, thank you for the recommendations. We'll make sure that we put those links in the show notes. The last question I got for you, there's someone out there that's listening to you both and they're super inspired by your journey and by your path, and they want to blaze a path for themselves similar to what you've done. But they have that little voice in their head that we all have, and that little voice says that they're not smart enough, they're not strong enough, or maybe they just don't have enough resources. What's the one thing that you would say to that person to get them to just take action?
I would say, ask yourself two questions like, what am I willing to do in order to get to that other side of growth? And what am I willing not to do, to get to that other side of growth? Are you willing to actually block out the internal voice in your head and actually start to put time into gaining the skill set, activate the skill sets you need in order to apply those skill sets and get more results in your life? Or are you willing to continue to let this internal head trash really stunt your growth and keep you where you're at? And 12 months go by, you're in the very same spot as you are at this very moment. So what are you willing to do? What are you willing not to do?
Yeah, I would just go back to this quote that I absolutely love. You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. And so just really working on making it a discipline to work on your mindset is huge. I think that's where everybody needs to start. It starts in your mind, and then that builds the confidence to actually get out there and take action. And imperfect action is better than no action. So, not having to have everything laid out. It's not going to be pretty in the beginning. It sure wasn't pretty for us at all. But we had to get started. We had to make some sacrifices, but more importantly, we had to work on our mindset and really building ourselves up to get the confidence to take that action.
Failing your way forward.
Yeah,
that one. You think, like you mentioned, it's not going to be all laid out. So many people are afraid to fail. They're afraid to make a mistake. You mentioned anybody that's came on your show in the past, even before us, I'm sure everybody made some small mistakes, some big failures that they remember that got them to where they are. So it's just about taking massive action and, taking action in spite of the way you feel and the internal voices going on in your head.
Yeah, I love it. There's so much wisdom in what you two just said. So I hope that people have stuck around, because that right there can get it. And what it brought to my mind of right at the end is that Will Smith says, if you're scared, do it scared. Right? Like that's really all it is, because in the beginning, nobody has, and I think that us as human, we always look for like the magic pill or the crystal ball. But the reality of it is even if I got into mobile home investing, yes, the strategies and the tips and everything for the most part will be the same. But in real estate investing specifically, no two deals are the same. You cannot prepare for everything. So if you see hundreds of thousands of people saying that they already investing into real estate, understand that none of their deals are the exact same, right? So that means that if they're doing it, you can do it as well, and you got to understand. But that's the part of building character, and it's the lessons that you learn that's like, oh, I see y'all try to get me on this one next time, and then when you win, it makes it that much better, because you're like, oh, we came back. So this has been, like I said, a phenomenal conversation. I appreciate you both for coming on, sharing your wisdom, and I look forward to hearing the feedback. For anybody who wants to stay connected with you, we'll make sure that we put all of your links in our show notes. But where can they find you both at?
Yeah, the best place to get in touch with us is on YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/Trader Cash Academy, and that's cash with a C, just because people get that mixed up. And so we have a ton of free trainings on YouTube. We've got a lot of student testimonials. You can see what other people are doing with mobile home investing. And then if you're ready to actually join our family and ready to get started with this, we always leave a link below those videos as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, I look forward to hearing the feedback. And just as they said, Dream Nation, you have to take action. You have to just do it, because otherwise that dream that you have will only merely be a fantasy. That's all we have for this one. We'll catch you on the next one. That's all we got for this episode. Thank you for sticking around. That truly means a lot to me, and hopefully that means that we delivered massive value on this one. If you haven't already, the way that you could say thank you to myself and the team is just by heading over to iTunes and leaving a review and a rating. That's what iTunes loves to see. That's how we get out there even more. And I would definitely be grateful for it. I know the team would as well. Do me a favor and head on over to dreamnationpodcast.com. That's where you're going to be able to find all of the resources that we talked about in today's episode, as well as more exclusive content. And you'll also be able to sign up to our email list where we have more exclusive content. And we always love to hear the feedback from you all because you're our tribe. So remember, in the dream we trust, we'll see you on the flip side.